From the New Perspectives headquarters in Washington, D.C., this is Crazy Love Stories.
So in love with you to the end of time. Hedge of protection in between the line. Nothing better than us. People wish that everlasting love made me a Democrat. Unconditional, but you get it that. Count on me, I'll be there and give it rap. From God to become one and bodies touch to the morning.
Today we're talking about social media. It could be a blessing, but it can also be a curse.
This can also be a tough one. What do you do when you've simply outgrown a relationship? We'll have that and more, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. For more dating and relationship advice, check out New Perspectives by Matt Phifer. Visit his website at newperspectivesdating.com. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's up?
Not much. How are you today?
I'm good, hoping for a better day. I'm feeling a little sluggish. I think it's because I spent almost all of last week on the West Coast, and I think it's still like slowly catching up to me that I'm back on the East Coast. So I'm just I feel like I've done everything in slow motion over the last week. As
a practitioner, I have a recommendation for you.
Well, what is that recommendation, sir?
Sometimes, before I give you my recommendation, I want to let you know that sometimes people are resistant to recommendations.
I'm already resisting. Resist.
Right. And I have a feeling you're going to resist this, but as your practitioner, you need a cup of fucking coffee.
Are you serious? I cannot stand coffee. We have been through this. I don't like it. It tastes bad. It smells bad.
Red Bull. Something. Like you need caffeine. Like drink something, do something. Tea. Anything.
Mountain Dew?
Mountain Dew will do.
Good. Okay. We found a solution.
And I recommend Code Red.
Oh, yeah. I know. You know what? You put me on to Code Red. Do you know I did not know about Mountain Dew Code Red until I met you? So thank you, man.
You're welcome. And you know what else I put you on? I want to do a little plug for them.
What? Oh, Purple Skittles. Purple
Yep.
Skittles. I know it. I knew it. I am obsessed with Skittles. I know. It's so whack. I know it's like the oldest, like old school candy that nobody really cares about, but I don't know. They have a special place in my heart, and I met Matt, and I was just stuck on the red pack original because I'm just boring like that. And one day...
Well, so I'm also obsessed with Skittles. I don't think you knew that, right? Or you didn't know that when we first met.
No, I did not.
But it's one of my favorite candies as well, but I've always hated the yellow. Which bothered me, and so one day I decided that I wanted to try the purple pack. I was very young at the time. I think I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I've become obsessed with them. And so I introduced them to you, and now you are obsessed with them.
Cue the music. I have now found new life.
I think it's funny because there again, you were also resistant. You're like, I will never leave the red pack. We've been through so much together. And you tried it one time and you were hooked.
I don't think I quite sounded like that, but we get your point. Okay.
I think you sounded exactly like that.
Whatever. So what's up with you, like, sending me random articles throughout the day? What's up with that? This podcast has, like, got us, like, obsessed with talking about relationships, which it should, right?
I think we were already obsessed with talking about relationships, and then we... started the podcast, but
I know it's just funny because now on an everyday basis, we're like, talking about the kids, talking about bills, talking about relationships, talking about this podcast. We're like, hey, check out this article, check out that article. We're like fiends now.
Well, you do know what I do for a living, right? I talk about relationships. So like you talk about your job with me and then I have to talk about my job with you. So I see articles that I think are cool and I can't help but to share them with you.
So this one you shared a couple days ago with me randomly. The top 6 things that doom relationships. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I was trying to drop some hints.
Wow, what are you trying to say?
Trying to say you're doing some things that are trying to doom our relationship.
Whatever. Number 1, relationships that stop communicating. This is a big one. You talk about this all the time.
Once you stop communicating, your relationship stops growth, basically. If you have no dialogue, if you're not able to be open and honest with each other, it might as well be over.
Number 2, relationships that just naturally grow apart. Yeah, I know all about this one.
I see this a lot with people who met at an early age. a lot of people don't really know this, but your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old. And so people who meet early on, and then they grow and they kind of grow apart, and they start careers, or they start to do other things. They start different aspirations in life. They tend to start to grow apart. Their goals are different. It happens a lot here in DC. I hear that a lot.
That's exactly what happened to me, actually. So that you're hitting me at the core right now. That's what happened with, my children's father. He was my high school boyfriend. Like, I met him when I was 13. Yeah, 13 was when I first met him. And then I think we started dating the first time at like 14. The summer when I was turning 14, because I was like a super geek and I was like already in high school at 13. We dated for a period of time till I think I was about 16, then broke up, and then got back together again at like 19, then broke up and got back together again at 21. But then it's like once I hit college, once I knew what I wanted to do, I was so focused. I was so like all about forward thinking that we just started to naturally grow apart, and he wasn't on the same page. And not to say he wasn't on the same career page, like he wasn't looking to be a journalist too, which who could care less about that. Right. But
the type of career and what he wanted to do in that type of aspirations in life.
The ambition, I just found that our ambition levels were just off, and it just naturally grew apart. And I just remember the day where I just didn't have any feelings anymore. I was just like, I'm not feeling you anymore, and I'm sorry. I felt bad, but it was like, you know what? We were kids when we got together.
Right, absolutely. It happens all the time. In particular, like I said, and it sounds like you were a part of that, where you guys were young and innocent, so to speak, and so you're the things that bring you guys together in your youth might be something as simple as TRL or 106 in Park, right?
Oh my God, that's exactly what it was. Right. Like, watching, music videos, seeing Destiny's Child on the colored screen for the first time.
And not only that, but I mean, it's the simple things that bring people together when you're young and in high school. Having the same class brings you together, and that becomes like your foundation and the things that make you laugh. And then, like you said, exactly what happened with you. People start their career path and people start making their choices of how they want to actually live in life. And that's a different story and different dynamic. That's the reason why people really pride themselves when they're an actual high school sweethearts. Because those people who are high school sweethearts and have a long-lasting relationship, they should be celebrated, because it's very difficult.
That is difficult to have gone through the teens, the 20s, the 30s, and you're still together.
Right, still together.
Number 3, relationships that set expectations too high.
So we'll talk about that a little bit today. That tends to happen when you start comparing your relationship to other people, or you start comparing the whole grass is greener on the other side. Well, sometimes the grass on the other side is fake. And when you are comparing your relationship to D. Wade and Gabrielle Union, or Jay-Z and Beyonce, or couples that you see on TV, often what happens is that you start to look at things that are just unachievable, or you look at people's situation and you feel like they never have a problem, so you leave this unrealistic expectation that you should not have any problems, and that's just not realistic
at all. Number 4, relationships that leave no room for patience and understanding. So it says, basically, if you're uncompromising and you fail to establish empathy in your relationship, then you're just practically sentencing yourself to a breakup. So compromise, that comes up a lot. We talked about it so much last episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And the patience thing, that's also key. When there's opportunity for growth and someone is trying to change, and they're putting in the work, and you want to see overnight results, and that's just not realistic, and it's not conducive to your partner who's actually putting in the work and actually giving in effort. So patience is key. That's something that comes up in sessions all the time.
Number 5 of the top 6 things that doom a relationship: relationships that are void of expressions of love, care, and intimacy.
Oh, that is big. I think I hinted to it last time. We'll be talking about the 5 love languages. And so when people feel that there is a void of love, people will start to look for that void in other places, in other areas, and possibly could lead to infidelity.
And finally, number 6, relationships that try too hard to be invulnerable. So when that happens, you're essentially building your relationship on a lie that you're perfect and have no vulnerabilities.
It's basically being fake.
Hiding your flaws, it says. Hiding your flaws from your partner. Basically, you have to recognize that you do have your own imperfections, too.
Right. Acting like you don't have any type of issues, that any topic that comes up in the relationship and any problem that comes up in the relationship is automatically your partner's problem, rather than taking on responsibility for any problems that might have. Any topic that comes up, even if you are bringing something up to your partner, sometimes that means that you yourself also need to change some sort of dynamic.
Interesting stuff. You know what else I wanted to bring up to you? I was on the gram. I know we're talking about social media today. I was on the gram and I was reading one of the accounts I follow, which is Baller Alert.
And for our older audience, that's Instagram.
Instagram.
Right.
Shout out to Mother. I think my mom knows that was Instagram, though. So, whatever.
Well, we have some other people there. I mean, that are not on the gram as much. And so they may not know that it's Instagram, but it's Instagram for our older audience.
True. So I read, it was just this post from Baller Alert, and it was like, they were just kind of reposting someone's blog post, but obviously you're just getting sort of the shorter version because this was Instagram and you can't really write a whole blog post on Instagram. But it was, the topic was, why is the responsibility put on women to keep their mate? So I was like, what is that about? So I read a little bit more, and basically the girl was just talking about the fact that she was out with her boyfriend driving around, and they went and stopped and visited, I think, an uncle of his or so that she hadn't met at the time. And so he went to go talk to the uncle, and she stayed and sat in the car and did what she was doing, but she could hear them talking. And once they finished their conversation, the uncle sort of walked him back to the car, and he was like, "Oh, is this your little girlfriend?" She's like, "Okay, hi," and they did the whole introduction thing. And then he was like, "You got a good one here. Make sure you keep him." Mm-hmm. And so she was like, "Well, why is it my responsibility to keep him? Why is the onus on me to make sure this relationship is doing well?" But, I don't know. Is that a thing where it's like the pressure is on the girls? Like, I feel like good men are so hard to find that once you do find a good man, everyone else is like, "Girl, hold on to him. He's a good one." But it's, is it just because the bar is just that low?
I don't think that that's 100% true, that it's all on the woman. I hear the same thing a lot from men, and I think that could be coming from, that dynamic could be coming from the uncle, maybe because his nephew is immature. It could be, there's a lot of things that could be playing out in that situation.
Right.
But I hear that a lot on the men's side too.
What, where people say to him, "You better hold on to that woman." Exactly.
That you got a good one. I just think that it depends on who it's coming from. There in a certain couple, you could hear it from both sides. Where let's say that you go meet your family, we go meet your family, and your family says to you, "I really like him, so make sure you hold on to him." Well, my family could say the exact same thing to me.
Right.
Right.
But I do feel that the bar has been set low, though. So it's like, when you do come home with a good guy, like they're literally like grasping onto him, like, "Please, like, don't leave. You're a good one." The last guy she brought home was a dud.
I don't know if the bar is set low or if it's the fact that people know that so let's put aside, a good man is hard to find. A good relationship is hard to find. And so it's like, okay, like, treat this person with some respect. Treat this person right, because you have something special. And people want to see people succeed. And so therefore, I don't know if it's so much a bar being set low. It's more of encouragement. And, hey, this is something good. And maybe the wording could be a little bit different, instead of like, hey, putting pressure on the person and saying keep them, don't mess this up. But I think it's more of words of encouragement, or it's intended as words of encouragement, like, yeah, keep going, keep going. Yeah. But in terms of the pressure of someone keeping a relationship, when a relationship tends to take a turn for the worse, at least when they're in session with me, a lot of times I'm looking for a hero, meaning that I'm intending to look for who is the more mature in the relationship. Because what tends to happen a lot of times is that both people are so upset with one another and they both want to kind of throw it away. Someone has to take the initiative to reintroduce love back into the relationship. I'd prefer to find for both of them to, but typically one person is a little bit more resistant than the other. And so one person has to be the hero of the relationship.
One person is the one that made the call to the counselor.
Exactly.
You know, I would say they're the hero then, right?
Right. That to make the call and then also take the initiative to take that first step. That first step might be going out on a date. That first step might be the first person to initiate conversation and communication back into the relationship. And people are resistant to that because they think that it makes them look weak in the relationship. And what happens, at least in session, is that you find out that could not be any further from the truth. That the person who is initiating the conversation actually has and holds a lot of power and a lot of wisdom in that relationship and a lot of maturity in that relationship. I think that's taking it a step further from what this article is written, but I don't think that people should look down on the fact that they're the ones that are kind of the more mature in the relationship.
Holding it down.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to start dating again, or you want to keep up with the dating lifestyle, but one thing's for sure, dating ain't cheap. I mean, rule number 1, you gotta look fly. And number 2, you need money to spend on these dates. Well, enter Uber. The super convenient ride-sharing app is a flexible gig that helps you put extra money in your pocket on your terms. Drive after your day job, or put in some hours on the weekends when you have free time. The best part? You get instant pay. Drive on Friday night, get paid Friday night. It's a no-brainer. Sign up to become an Uber driver today. Use the code MATTP22738UE when you sign up to be an Uber driver and get up to $350 sign-on bonus just for being a Crazy Love Stories listener. That's code MATTP22738UE.
All right, so when I think of social media, I think of what I see a lot lately, which is, and some of it very well could be true, but I see a lot of people, what we like to say, flexing for the gram. Yeah. As we said earlier, this is Instagram. Right. And when I say flexing for the gram, I mean, all you post is that beautiful holiday trip where you're sitting on the edge of the yacht in your perfect bikini and your airbrushed tummy and thighs.
But you're broke.
And your kids didn't eat last night, and you're on this trip somewhere, or you got the latest Jordans, or you are, in Paris, or you are driving this car, but it's a rental.
Right. But you post as if it's yours.
You're sitting in that perfect corner of your bedroom where, and YouTubers are famous for this one. Yeah. They always, I'm like, why do their bedrooms always look so damn perfect when they're, right, showing those little how-to videos? Or, and it's, sitting in this one little corner of your room that you jazzed up with the perfect curtains and the perfectly placed cushions on your bed. And all of a sudden, if you were to actually pivot the camera just a tiny bit, we would see your nasty laundry on the floor and your underwear and all that, the marks on the walls, but you don't show that.
Right. And I don't want to see it either, but but yeah, it happens.
But you get my point. Is right. It's this like facade. It's this image that you want everyone to see, but it's not necessarily real life.
Right. And the danger behind it is that you all of a sudden start to feel and start to believe in this lie that your life is perfect. And so what happens is that you feel like you have to live up to a standard that you can't keep up with. And a lot of times that goes into your relationship as well, where you try to paint this perfect image of a relationship when everyone knows that relationships are not perfect. Actually, let me take that back. People don't always know that, right? And it's obviously people are not going to be posting their dirty underwear or anything like that on Facebook. But
I was just kidding.
Yeah, but and you're not going to post your arguments on Facebook either. However, it's important to know that what you post on Facebook and what you post on social media is not a relationship, and so therefore. Have some patience and know that your relationship is going to have its ups and downs.
I actually see people comment on, celebrity photos all the time, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram. I see them comment on celebrity photos all the time. Oh, I love y'all. Oh, y'all are goals. Hashtag goals.
Right.
Hashtag relationship goals. I mean, I've posted hashtag relationship goals sometimes, partly because we have a relationship business. So we're kind of different, where I'm trying to attract people to get to know about New Perspectives by Matt Phifer and to get to know about Crazy Love Stories, the podcast. And so I'm using, key hashtags that I think will bring in those people. But I'm talking about people will actually put hashtag goals, and it's you're probably not necessarily goals. Be the goal for yourself, but I don't think you should be the goal for everyone else.
Yeah, it's very similar to when I was playing sports, or when I talk to people who are playing sports. They compare their life to the highlights that you see on ESPN. Well, the highlights you see on ESPN are not the actual game. If you watch the highlight, you might think that one certain team won because they dominated the highlights. That's not necessarily true. And when you bring that same analogy over to relationships, a lot of times people will look at, quote unquote, their relationship goals. They'll look at D. Wade and Gabrielle Union, or people that they look up to, and they see, to your point, the expensive yachts and the trips, and think that is a true relationship. That's only the highlights of their life and the highlights of their relationship. And what they don't see is the problems that happen before they actually snap that picture. The fight that they just had, the blended family, the difficulties with the blended family, and dealing with the exes, and everything that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And they compare themselves to their highlight and feel like their own relationship is inadequate. And that couldn't be any further from the truth.
Well, you just touched on exes. Let's talk about exes on social media. Any rules with that? It's kind of a fine line.
It's not a fine line. Drop them. It's not a fine line. The way that I look at it and the way that I approach it is, would you rather make your ex feel uncomfortable or the person you're currently with uncomfortable? People try to keep their exes around because they don't want to hurt feelings, right? They don't want to drop to, because they're afraid of the potential conflict that might come from behind it. But trust me when I tell you this, you would rather have that type of conflict and that type of drama than the drama with your current person that you're with. There's no way that you should have people still orbiting, still lingering around, from your past, that is going to look at what you have and once again, going back to the whole comparison thing, right? Comparing to see if the grass is greener on the other side, looking to see what you have, and then all of a sudden wanting that back, right? Or seeing that you're doing something better for someone else, or your relationship is better with your new person than it was with them, and then therefore trying to sabotage it, right? Reaching out, liking too many pictures, leaving a foot in the door, trying to get your mind on them by inboxing you and things of that nature. And it will lead to destruction every single time. And
it's actually really liberating when you actually do unfriend or unlike. Right. Going back to your point about, you feel like you're going to hurt feelings or what have you. Maybe it wasn't the worst breakup. So you're like, oh, I don't want to put the dagger in by unfriending. But it's once you do it, it's it's, then all ties are cut, and then you can skip freely now within your relationship, because you don't have to worry about your current partner, misinterpreting anything, because there's now no communication. You just cut that off.
Right. And there's a certain question that comes up every single time in every single relationship that you will be able to answer with integrity. Who is this? Right? Everyone has been there. Everyone has done that where someone is going to comment, someone is going to like way too many times or send a DM. And when your significant other sees that and asks the question, who is this? When you're able to answer with integrity, it's just a coworker, right? And mean it, and mean it, and know that there's nothing there. Like, they're not interested, because they don't even like my type of people. They're gay. They're married. They're
She
this.
doesn't even date black guys, so
Exactly.
You're fine, honey.
I honestly have not talked to this person in 10 years. They're just getting caught up, and you're able to literally answer that with integrity, right? It brings so much more security to your relationship than the reverse. Oh, you mean Johnny?
He's my ex.
Right. Yeah, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And then guess what type of conversation you're about to have next, right? Well, then why is he reaching out to you now, right?
And then you have to circle back and you have to explain the history there and explain it with conviction, where your partner is going to actually believe you, because that in itself can be a hurdle.
And I want to take it one step further, because there's a lot of times that people don't actually think about this, right? So no one likes it when an ex is reaching out, right? No one feels comfortable with that. And often the excuse that people leave is, but they're married now, but they're in a relationship now. Okay, then let's take this one step further. Then how do their significant other feel about reaching out to you, right? Now all of a sudden that changes the dynamic just slightly, where now you are a part of somebody else's drama, right? And no one wants to be that other person.
Right.
And it just leaves too many opportunities there. So you leave that door open with an ex or with someone that there might have been history with, or an old crush, right? And all of a sudden they reach out. It starts out with a like, right? And then all of a sudden you guys start commenting. Then all of a sudden it goes from that to DMing, and you decide that you don't want to share that with your significant other. Then it goes from there to some sort of lunch date, right? Or someone, some light flirting, mm-hmm. right? Then to meeting up. Where do you think that infidelity starts? Right?
From the beginning.
Right. That's how we get into those type of dynamics and those type of situations. Because going back to our relationship not always living up to the highlights, right? You go through some bad moments, and then all of a sudden you have this crush that you've been eyeing for a while, and you see their highlights on social media, and all of a sudden you start to desire that, and you start to communicate, and you start to want that, either again if it's an ex, or you want that period, and it starts to lead down a slippery slope.
And just speaking personally, over time, I mean, it's more so in the beginning than now. I mean, I've had to shut down some females on your page. Yeah. I've had to shut down some likers, some overachievers, right. I like to call them, some over commenters, some LOLers.
I call them orbiters.
The extra LOL. You're right. So funny, Matt. And, what you said was not all that funny, but they're like, and it's like, really, girl, right. Go sit down. Right. I've had to shut that down, and you've had to shut that down mm-hmm. on my end too. Right. And I think we were talking about this the other day, just, in passing, like, we appreciate that about each other, kind of keeping those things in check. It also shows that you're paying attention right. to stuff, and that flatters me, and I love that you're paying attention, and I am also paying attention too. I think we brought up a cousin of yours that we admire that about their relationship as well with him and his wife, that she's always making sure that people on the outskirts are know who right. she is and stay in line.
Right. There has to be some very strict boundaries, and there has to be some very strict rules that you come up with and how to play these things. And there has to be a lot of honesty and a lot of integrity with it as well, because social media, a lot of people don't know this, but if you were to guess what percentage of divorces list social media as a part of the reason of a divorce, what would you think that percentage is?
Being 2017, I would think that number is pretty high. I think a few years ago, I would guess lower, but I'd maybe 70-something%.
It actually is about 70%.
Yeah.
Which is really
Wow.
high, and that's 70% of people that may have caught, right? And so, so social media it can be a very slippery slope when it comes to relationships. And then, so let me take that a step further. What percentage of people would you say, do you think, look up an ex on social media?
Look up an ex. I'm going to guess that that's even higher because people sometimes are just generally curious. So 86.75%.
About right. 85%.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm so good.
Yeah.
But
So
but that's not good though.
Yeah, exactly. When people are looking up their ex, right? And everyone's going to have some sort of curiosity to know what an ex is up to, and just for multiple different reasons. It's not always a negative thing, right? However, knowing that 85% of people are looking up their ex, it's a lot different when that person is not constantly in your face and constantly on your timeline, constantly in your feed, right? There's a big difference, right, of looking someone up and maybe once every 5 years versus it constantly being in your face.
Right. Everything that they post, you're seeing it, so they're constantly a reminder. Yeah, that's no good.
And how dangerous would it get? Because here's the other thing about an ex, and this goes beyond social media. You tend to look back at your relationships with a pair of rose-colored glasses, right? Looking back at more of the good times, looking back at those highlights again, rather than looking back at the negativity, right? So when you combine that with the highlights that they're posting on social media, right? It can be a very slippery slope, and it can lead to being very dangerous. And that's the reason why a lot of times those exes are still coming back. And when you're posting things that are positive, notice how many people started to comment when you and I got engaged, right? And
Right.
people started coming out of the woodwork.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
The DMs have been popping
Right.
since this proposal.
Right.
You were getting a lot of like, hey, make sure she knows that she's a lucky lady. Like,
Right.
bitch.
And that wasn't even from exes, because for the most part, you and I have both cut out all of our exes off of social media. However, when people start to see those highlights, all of a sudden they try to get their foot in the door. They try to grasp at what you have and try to rekindle, even at some small level, what you had, right? Which can be extremely dangerous. And I think that everyone listening and both of us know of people who have like relationships that have ended because of situations that started out there. Then it led to like a little bit of light flirting, led to some light jokes, which then led to meeting up and so on, and until there's full out infidelity.
So we talk about exes and the orbiters, which that just seems to keep rolling back into this podcast. So I love how things are just weaving throughout this season. What about just having friends of the opposite sex where it's just innocent? There's none of that old hanky-panky coming back around. Female friends on your end. You have a female friend that I've never been jealous of, right. And in fact, I'm now friends with.
Right. Well, you hit the nail on the head. If you're going to have a friend of the opposite sex, that friend now becomes a friend of the relationship, not your one-on-one friend. That one-on-one stuff, if it's a true friendship, that one-on-one stuff is done, and because that dynamic, when it's an opposite sex friend, you want to make sure that your significant other feels 100% secure in your relationship. So therefore, so my female friend, from day one, I mean, you guys, instead of shaking hands or anything like that, you guys hugged.
Yeah.
You guys, and you knew that there was nothing there. We've been friends for, close to, or actually over 20 years now at this point. And so when you guys met, you just knew that this was basically like another sister. And now let me take that a step further. Me and her relationship is now different. She doesn't, when I was single, she could call me, and she knew this. She could call me at any point in time. She could call me late night. She could call me at 1 a.m, and with relationship problems, or with child problems or just couldn't sleep or whatever, and it was fine. But that doesn't happen. Me and her know this. And I know that when she's in a relationship, I can't call her just in any random time. That's not okay anymore.
Right.
Right? The rules with opposite sex friends are completely different than, if your guys or your same sex friends are calling you at whatever time, in the morning. Also, I'm not having lunch with her, right? Just one-on-one. We have lunch together as a couple. Not to say that I can't ever talk to her one-on-one, but it's going to be appropriate hours, right? And our relationship is now different, and we both know that, and we're okay with that, and that's the way that it should be played out.
But it's changed, but for the better. She's now gained another friend.
Exactly.
She's now gained something in me that she didn't have before, where she can now text me about something that's girly that you wouldn't have been able to answer before. So now it's, again, like to your point, she's gained another friend, right. Another bestie.
Right, and you also have gained a new friend, right? And you've gained the security to know that there's nothing there, right? And that when you have same-sex friends, I cannot stress the importance of that friend becoming a friend of the entire couple.
What about when your man or your woman is liking, just on a liking spree, and you see, how Instagram is set up now, where whoever you follow, as you're going down your feed, you kind of, it shows you, it highlights for you what people that you follow are liking and what they're not liking. So you'll see, it'll kind of like stick out right away, like, Matt Phifer like this, or, whatever. Matt Phifer follows this person. What about when women find, I've just heard a lot of girls talk about this, and I saw a little meme about it the other day, men liking way too many girls' pictures, like where you just see them on every girl, every model, every social media model's photos, just liking and commenting on stuff. And it's like, why is this chick competing for your attention? Like, I should have your attention.
It's that's a big thing that actually comes up, and it's something that I actually recently talked to a couple about. And there has to be a fine line, right, where most women know that and girls do this too. People are going to admire other people. People are not blind. People see other attractive people, and people see other attractive models or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't, and a lot of times it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to step out, and they just find someone attractive. Halle Berry is attractive. And
what? You like Halle Berry?
I did at one point in time, but yeah, she's a little bit old now, but
she still looks good.
No, she definitely
Shout
does.
out Halle.
I'm saying like it's played out, so to speak. So, but anyway, the point being is that I'm not liking her stuff. The reason why is to your point. You want the image of your relationship to be strong, right? And going back to this couple that I was working with, the gentleman was liking a lot of Instagram models' things. The wife honestly could care less that he was looking at it. Her problem was that people could see that, right? And people would have the impression that he wasn't satisfied and he wasn't happy at home.
Because like I said, it comes up in other people's feeds too, that they can, and so other people will see, oh, why is so-and-so's man liking all of these pictures? And then all of a sudden there's drama and you didn't even realize that there was drama.
And on the flip side as well. And so it's just important to have a conversation with your significant other on the impression that they're leaving about your relationship to other people.
So, Matt, if our listeners heard nothing at all in this episode of the podcast, what can you sum up for us as just some general rules across the board of social media use when you're in a relationship? Are there any key things that we should just keep in mind when moving forward and still wanting to be, social and talk to your friends and be accessible, but remember that you got a man or a woman at home?
I would bring it right back to the golden rule. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. So treat social media the way that you want your significant other to treat it. And it goes a long, long way when something does happen and you're able to explain to your significant other that I would never have done this to you, and I have not done this to you. And, for example, an ex reaches out to your significant other and you're able to say, like, listen, I don't have any exes on social media, and I would appreciate the same level of respect from you. And it changes the dynamic of that conversation. So if there was one rule I would say is to treat your significant other the way that you want to be treated. And
we had that very same conversation. Like I mentioned earlier, I was very quick to like check, oh, who's that? And who's she? And what's up with the LOL over there? And, what's up with her? Right. And some of them were people that you had dated before. Some of them weren't. Some of them were girls that had crushes on you that never got their shot. And now they're like, oh, look at him. He's super attractive now because look, he's with that girl and they're engaged now. So I shut things down early. And then, I sort of had linger on my end. On the flip side, I still had like lingering people from the past just kind of there. Like to me, they were nothing. They were just kind of floating in the background. But every now and then they would surface and comment on something. And then there would be a back and forth quick chat, all public, all on public forums. But it's about the perception about how my partner is going to feel. And so when you sort of brought that to me and reminded me like, hey, look, we've talked about girls on my end that were kind of orbiting. Right. Why are you not doing the same for me? That was the instant like light bulb for me. Like, oh, right. If the roles were reversed, I would want nothing to do with this, with you having back and forth chats with anybody. Right. So I get it.
And the other thing is, I know I touched on this earlier, but the perception to the other person's significant other. I can't stress that enough because for me, I don't want any drama in my relationship whatsoever. And so therefore, if some other woman is calling you because their man is like reaching out to you or whatever, there's a problem. And now I have a problem that should not have been there, regardless if I trust you or not. That's a problem. And that's drama in your relationship that does not need to be there.
Now it's a bigger deal. It's like on front page. Right. So shut it down, folks. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Like the music you're hearing? Check out Jordan J. River on SoundCloud. Our cover art was designed by Kashta Media. Listen to Crazy Love Stories on SoundCloud and iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe.